Hey guys, Dave the Station here. We're going to talk about weapon lights. How to, when you should, and some tips and advice I can give you on how to employ a weapon light when it comes to duty use, when it comes to being prepared as a prepared citizen or in your everyday carry loadout. Lots of people today are starting to incorporate optics, weapon lights, different accessories you can add to your firearm in their everyday carry or their concealed carry setups. So weapon lights are definitely something that you should consider. They're super helpful and they can give you a tactical advantage that your target or your threat might not have. Weapon lights do a few things. They, first off, allow you to see better in low light or no light situations. They aid in getting that positive identification that you need to verify that the individual or whatever in front of you is a threat to yourself, your family, your property, whatever. And the third thing it does is it kind of can disorient the threat. So what I'm talking about when I say disorient, right? Have you ever looked up into the sun and then you see that kind of weird green, purpley blotch in your vision? So, that's obviously looking at something very bright in a darker or less bright environment than you're typically used to seeing. Your eye picks up on that, and it's kind of obscuring part of your vision. So a weapon light definitely does that, depending on some more than others, depending on which weapon light you have. So there's a couple good ones out there. The Enforce, like APL lights, the TLR series lights from Street and Light, and then Surefire's kind of like X300 series. So the Surefires, they run around like $300 or so. They're super awesome, very high quality, super well made. Streamlights are also high quality. Some of them aren't quite as bright as the Surefires. They arguably aren't as durable as Surefires, but for my purposes, they've been serving me very well. So I run a TLR 1 HL, and then there's the TLR 1, which is just kind of standard. The HL has like 800 lumens or so, and the regular one I think has like 300 or 400 lumens. So twice the brightness for a couple extra bucks. So the TLR 1 comes in at I think right around $100 or so street price, and the HL comes in at about 130 or so. Shop around, find the best deals. There's no harm in paying a little bit less than retail for them. But I'll show you guys here. So this is my setup. You guys have seen this handgun before. Like I said, I've got the TLR1 HL. It's got a strobe function, constant on and momentary on there. I've got a Vortex red dot on top, and then I run Glock 17 magazines in my Glock 19. So I guess we'll clear the weapon. Empty magazine, empty chamber. But basically, weapon lights do a few extra things as well that you might not think about, right? So when it comes to recoil control, having a little bit extra weight on the front of your weapon does help with muzzle flip. 9mm doesn't actually recoil all that much, but having a little bit of weight out there helps keep that muzzle down, making your follow-up shots just a tiny bit faster. So anything that helps you win the fight, why would you not? So past that though, these weapon lights are awesome. I've got a few of them. I keep them around. I've got holsters for them and stuff. You are, depending on what handgun you are running, you might have a little bit of a hard time finding a holster that is compatible with whatever weapon light you use. But custom holsters really aren't that much more expensive than production holsters, right? So TRX Arms makes some awesome holsters. The holster I'm using right now is the TRX Arms Sidecar. Definitely go check out that video I have up about it, and then maybe that's something you want to incorporate into your setups. But duty use, you're kind of looking at different Glocks and 1911s and Smith & Wesson, M&Ps, whatever you want. But So there's holsters out there. You just keep that in mind. You might have a little bit harder time finding a holster for a weapon light compatible firearm if you're using something kind of weird that's out there. But today it's been a lot more mainstream to add these different accessories, so the holster options are abundant. Now, as far as law enforcement, military, whatever kind of a duty use perspective is for having a weapon light, they get to play by a different set of rules. So they can draw their weapon out and they can use it to aid in searching, or if they think that there's a threat to them or a possible threat to them, they can have their firearm out and that weapon light on. As far as a regular civilian or citizen goes, you can't brandish a firearm in public. We'll get in trouble for that. There's you're breaking laws, you're scaring people, a whole cascade of events happens if you do that. So don't do that. But that does not mean that weapon lights aren't something that you should consider. So those reasons that we talked about, it aids in identifying your target or your threat in a low light or no light situation. You can see a positive identification of a weapon or something that can cause death or great bodily harm to you or bystanders near you, and then it can help disorient the target. Now, what that means is when people use their firearms, right, in concealed carry or kind of even law enforcement, most events or situations where people use their firearms are pretty close ranges. I think it's like 90% of all concealed carry of situations are within like 25 yards or something. Don't quote me on that. I don't know, but I think that's pretty accurate. So relatively close range, and 800 lumens right in your face at 10 yards is very bright. You're going to get that effect where you kind of are missing part of your vision due to kind of that light exposure. But as far as a concealed carry setup goes, right? Like I said, I can't brandish my weapon, so if I pull my gun out, I'm going to use it. Probably. There's a few circumstances where you might not, but we're not going to get into that. So if I pull my weapon out, I'm taking that slack out of the trigger, and I'm not going to have time to what I think most people think that these weapon lights are designed for, is to activate that light, with their trigger finger. That's definitely something that law enforcement could do, but depending on your weapon system, your hand size, whatever, I've got pretty small hands, so I can barely reach the switch on that. So what I do is, as I pull out my firearm, right, so we'll go here, right, so here, we're going from the stages of draw, so I got position 1, I've got my weapon out, and I've got it, if somebody's right up top of me, I don't even have to aim, I can just start pulling the trigger. 2, I've got, I'm taking that slack out of the trigger, depending on what weapon system you're using. There could be more slack, less slack, no slack at all. So I'm taking some of that tension out. 3, my hands are coming together, and I'm starting to push my weapon out. Right? I'm pushing out with my dominant hand, and I'm pulling back with my non-dominant hand, getting a very stable and solid position. So right here, for me, I think the kind of standard is most people run their thumb parallel to the slide while they're presenting their weapon. So that's a great grip. You got your fingers wrapped around here. You've got a lot of contact with the palm on your non-dominant hand on the firearm, and you've got your wrist locked out, helping mitigate that recoil a little bit. So what I have found when I carry with a weapon light, which I do frequently, just about everywhere I go, instead of going from straight out here and having my thumb up, I just move my thumb down a little bit and activate the weapon light while I still have the ability to pull that trigger if I need to with my trigger hand. So I'm going out, I got the tension out here, and I can, you know, take the rest of that slack out of the trigger and, you know, make follow-up shots and do whatever I need to ensure that that threat is no longer a threat to me. Now, weapon lights, you know, they look cool. Like I said, there's advantages to them. They've got a little bit more weight out there. They're, you know, giving you the ability to help see in the dark and stuff. So it's something you should consider. Law enforcement guys, you know, I'll let you guys kind of do your own thing. I'm not an expert in that by any means, but you know, I do know that they can, you know, utilize their weapon system, or at least present it without, you know, worrying about getting hemmed up for brandishing a firearm. There's certain stipulations that they have, but like I said, I'm not an expert, so I'll leave them to whatever they need to do. If anybody out there wants to weigh in on that, definitely leave it in the comments, send me a message, do whatever you got to do. But hopefully that's something you guys can practice and train with, right? You can do it just about as fast as you can doing a normal draw, right? You can activate that weapon light. So we'll just go. So I've got the slack out of the trigger, the weapon light is on, and then you know, I'm ready to take that shot and make follow-up shots. If you thought this video was helpful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.